Marjorie Taylor Greene says Trump discussing nukes on Iran. Yes. That's apparently what's happening in Trump White House. Like and subscribe.
And then Marjorie Taylor Greene, you can show the post, Stephanie. Did you probably didn't see it because you were doing it live.
I haven't.
I
haven't seen it.
Yes. Yeah. She posted a photo.
Just show it to me.
Open it. I had it open. There it is. No. Where is it? Shit. All right. Can you open it, Stephanie, in the meantime? Oh, there it is. I'll find it myself. So she posted this a couple of hours ago. They are discussing using nuclear weapons on Iran in strategy meetings. Yes, you read that correctly. It's real. I'm not speculating. I know. And it's pure evil. The last time a nuclear weapon was used was August 6th and 9th of 1945 on two cities in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, immediately killing 110,000 people, vaporizing people at ground zero, and total deaths reached 214,000 by the end of the year from severe burns and trauma. But the extreme suffering continued for the Japanese people, from radiation sickness, skyrocketing cancer rates, and generational birth defects, not to mention wiping out all means of their economy. And the suffering was so great that all humanity vowed never again. Trump and his administration were told by our own intelligence that Iran has nowhere near creating a nuclear weapon. Was nowhere near creating a nuclear weapon. Then Israel said the same line. It's repeated for decades. Iran is only weeks away. So we bombed anyways, killed their leaders and innocent little children in a school. And Iran has controlled the Strait of Hormuz ever since and punished the region for their part in it. And now our government is the one actually discussing lowering the nuclear threshold in order to use nuclear weapons against Iran.
There's a possibility this is true. I'm leaning between not true and true. I think it's more likely to be true on some level because they're running out of precision ammunitions. At that point, you either go to dumb bombs, which involves risking U.S. planes by flying deep into Iran, or you admit loss, or you escalate unconventionally. And I'm sure Trump will want to ask, well, what about nukes? Like, when you have the U.S. military telling him there is no options, I'm sure Trump is like, well, don't we have nukes? Yeah, that type of scenario.
Even though Trump claims he's won the war like 40 times and says the U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz, Trump promised no more foreign wars, but may actually be the one who delivers a nuclear holocaust that would likely drag the entire world into major conflict, economic depression, and mass human suffering we've never seen in our lifetime and maybe throughout history.
Yes, it would be extremely bad for Trump if he does that. But everything's bad for Trump right now. Yes, it would be marginally more bad than declaring defeat to Iran. He's trapped. He has no good way out. So hopefully he doesn't get desperate, or there's enough sane people to restrain him if he does get desperate.
People need to speak out and boldly stop this insanity. America's not untouchable. If and when that happens, everyone, and I do mean everyone, will hold all of those in leadership right now fully responsible for the rest of human history. Do not use nuclear weapons and stop this war now.
I think she knows what she's talking about.
Yes.
That's a pretty big statement. That's a pretty big tweet. They are discussing using nuclear weapons on Iran in strategy meetings.
Well, Trump this isn't the first time he's talked about you.
The Iran war would become even more unpopular if Trump did this. And the rest of the world would turn against the United States. And as soon as nukes are used one place in war, the first time during World War II, that's a different story, but everyone agreed never to do it again. But if they do it again, then it becomes far more likely to be used somewhere else. If the U.S. uses a nuke, very real chance that Russia decides to use a nuke too, like against Ukraine, and you start having nukes being used everywhere, and it really sucks.
Using them. Remember the story got, initially I was told that he quote the codes. He's always got access to the codes. What happened in that story that went viral 3 months ago was that Trump was raising the possibility of using nukes. And General Dan Kane said, absolutely not. No, not going to do that. So
about Trump being no better than the Star Wars Empire, yes. Well, so far he hasn't blown up a planet. I will say that for him. So far he hasn't blown up a planet. And, the Star Wars Empire did do that, so. So far, not as bad as Star Wars Empire.
As his military advisor. Now, Trump as president, the way the chain of command works, he could order it. And Kane can't overrule that order. That order would go to the strategic command. and then it would be up to them to carry it out. And it would be.
I will give Trump credit for this. I don't think he would blow up the planet that he is currently on. If he had the option to blow up a different planet, then very possible. But I think he has enough sanity left to not blow himself up.
It would be a potential death blow for the United States. Look, you can drop a nuke on Iran at one site, and all it's going to do is, it's going to change what Russia and China then do, and North Korea potentially, and possibly Pakistan, all nuclear powers.
I would say North Korea is the least likely to do anything because it's nowhere near the Middle East. It's nowhere near America. I think what Russia, China, and Pakistan do is far more important.
This is Pandora's box that Trump is better not open.
Exactly. No leader not only shouldn't use a nuclear weapon, no leader should even discuss nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
There is no scenario when nukes make sense, and there shouldn't be a scenario.
They make sense if someone else launches a bunch of nukes on you, that you launch them back. That's the scenario where it makes sense.
Where nukes make sense, because the only argument where nukes could be used in a protocol would be when there's an existential threat that a country is facing.
Right.
And I think this is what the discussion has been for a while about Russia. Will Russia use nukes? If Putin's life is in danger, if it's existential for Russia, etc.
Israel's a country I'm more worried about using nukes. More worried than... Actually, more worried about Israel using nukes than Trump, to be honest.
Sure. But this is very different to what we're discussing right now in Iran. Trump could simply walk away, and to be even considering using nukes.
Not at the current moment, but just overall. If we're talking about the next 2.5 years, I'm more worried about Israel than Trump.
Just to achieve to try to achieve a pretty useless victory, like Iran doesn't control the Strait of Hormuz, or Iran would charge 1% instead of 7%. It would be just. I love Marjorie, and I've had her on the show many times. I'm sure she has a source. Who am I to question it? It's different.
It makes sense, Mario. You have all these leaks about the shortage of U.S. ammunitions. That means conventional bombing strategies, what Trump has been doing up until now with precision weapons, is becoming less and less viable. You practically can't do it anymore. So what's the alternative? The alternative is dumb bombs, which high chance of planes getting shot down, which Trump absolutely hates, and the unconventional nukes. So, of course, in the scenario where precision ammunition is being depleted, discussions about nukes would come up. Of course it would.
Difficult for me to believe this is real. Like, it's difficult for me to believe we're at a position where the president of the United States is talking about using nukes in a scenario like this.
But look how desperate Trump is, as Marjorie noted.
Well, what Marjorie noted, it's not necessarily Trump that's maybe talking about the nukes. Could be some of the military commanders that bring it up. I'm talking about a scenario where Trump says, give me a way to defeat Iran, and you're the military commander that has to give Trump a way to defeat Iran, and you're out of precision ammunitions. What plan are you going to give him? You have to give him something, and you could say, we could use nukes.
Number one, Trump has declared that we've won 40 times, so if we've won, what the hell? Take the victory lap. Have a parade. And then, and we have...
That's so insane. Yesterday, Trump declared that he was going to make the Strait like a U.S. territory. There was something insane like that. He is still pretending he's won the war. And I've told you, that's my litmus test for when we're getting near the end of this. As long as Trump is talking about having won, there's no hope of this ending.
Absolutely control the Strait of Hormuz. He keeps saying that. Now, it's all lies. Trump just doesn't want to have to admit that he's lost.
Exactly.
He's failed to not only force Iran to subjugate itself to the United States, but in the process, Iran has effectively driven the United States out of the Persian Gulf. The United States can't really have a significant military presence there right now.
Yeah, the army there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's genuinely sick and wants to go out with a bang, literally. You know, some people have been suggesting he's mentally unwell. I don't think so. I think there's only one decision that really matters. That first decision to bomb Supreme Leader. I think that it was his success in Venezuela went to his head. You had Netanyahu who lied to him about the intelligence, about how it would be over in 3 days. And he just made one bad decision. Everything since then, he's been trapped. He politically, losing to Iran finishes him. Asmongold would turn against him. He'd lose like this. I think he only has 36% support right now. He'd go down to like something like 11 if he loses the Iran war. So he can't politically admit to have lost, and he can't win militarily. And the situation just becomes worse and worse for him in terms of the economy. Just look at this.
So apparently the FBI has been sitting on a tip on Epstein.
This is oil might be down from its highs, but gasoline and diesel, yeah, especially diesel, it's hitting new all-time highs. The damage economically to Trump and the U.S. and the world is growing.
The Iranian army, the head of the army, said he said that earlier this morning. The U.S. would never be able to use the Strait of Hormuz or the Gulf of Oman again, and the American bases in the region will never return to.
And Trump is old, and an old person under a huge amount of stress. I think he's doing good in terms of how he's speaking for being under that huge amount of stress. But yeah, he's going to be throwing tantrums, being irrational. I mean, his entire legacy is going down in flames, and with his ego, that must be tearing him apart.
How they were before. He also offered a $30,000 bounty for every American soldier, dead or alive.
Yeah.
So that was the same guy.
Yeah, that gets back to this fantasy that we're going to launch some sort of ground operation. Okay, look.
There's some people that believe that right after the midterms, we're going to launch a ground invasion of Iran. Me, I say I agree that the military signs are there, that's where we're heading. But there's this. If this goes up enough, I don't think that's possible anymore.
The state of the United States military across the board is in dire straits, particularly on the supply side.
Yes.
And we talked yesterday about the factory outside of Texas. $500 million to General Dynamics, and they couldn't produce one damn artillery shell.
Yeah, well, you talked about this story the other day. $500 million United States spends, give General Electric to build a factory to make artillery shells. They build this factory, use Turkish robots. Turkish robots don't work, and it hasn't produced anything, and it's just $500,000 literally flushed down the drain. No one's gone to prison for this, which is what I think should happen, but yeah, that's the state of the U.S. military.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of you want to talk about an epic failure of the military-industrial complex, and asking Lockheed Martin and others to build more, whether it's Tomahawks or PAC-3 missiles or JASSMs. Can't build those either because China controls the supply chain.
Yeah, I've just messaged Marjorie now for to chat to her about it, to ask her for her source. Malcolm was telling me earlier that he thinks if her source may even be Joe Kent, or Joe Kent may know about it as well. I think Joe Kent comes on tomorrow because they're in the same circle: Massey, Kent, Tucker, Marjorie. And also Tucker has been warning about this. You remember when he was up in arms, me and him disagreed on this. He thought Trump was on the verge of using nukes. I was very hesitant to believe that, and I thought he's more likely to off-ramp. But now Marjorie to say this now, it's pretty wild. Another thing I was thinking as well is that if there is by the way, the MOU is expired as well, Larry. Depends. If the MOU is about, it was based on...
I think the MOU is dead, buried, and we've lost the location of the tomb. We couldn't even find it if we wanted to.
On the ceasefire in the MOU. If the ceasefire in the MOU is the time of when it expires was American time, then it expires in 9 hours. If it was Iranian time, it expired 1 hour ago. So we've got the ceasefire and the MOU is over. We've got a new aircraft carrier heading to the region. And we've got the Iranians appointing leadership that is hardened for war, ready for war. And we've got Marjorie Taylor Greene now talking about Trump, or about I'm sure it includes Trump, about discussing using nuclear weapons in strategy meetings. Now, my point, the thought that I had is that if genuinely this was being discussed, I'm sure many in the administration would be against it. We would be seeing leaks about it, and I hope we don't. If we start seeing leaks on the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Axios, then I start to really worry. Because what I think will happen is members of the administration will leak it.
No,
They will speak
no.
out publicly.
Yeah, don't, if they start leaking it, don't worry, because they're leaking it. And that,
That's a good point. If they're leaking it, that means there's people inside the administration that are opposing the idea, and because you wouldn't leak it and like be supportive of the idea behind closed doors, it means if there are people in the rooms where nukes are being discussed that are not in favor of the plan.
that means
No,
it's
I
being
think
opposed. That's being opposed. If they're not
exactly.
leaking it, then yes, that should send your pucker factor way up.
No, exactly. So if they're leaking it, I would worry less, obviously, because they're opposing it. But I would not. I cannot imagine. Like, I struggle to imagine Trump considering nukes. Then he would have lost
Why?
his mind.
Why?
Because it's just, I know a lot of people are talking he's crazy. I consider this Iran war is crazy. I'm surprised we are where we are.
Did you saw his Truth Social post today about Shannon Bream?
We are. No.
Oh, about Shannon Bream.
you say?
I mean,
Uh,
he's
what's
personally
this?
attacking her. He said Shannon Bream is always like watching the worst of fake news CNN. I don't know Shannon, duh. But she always seems to pick guests, charts, and polls that are negative, never talking about all of the incredible things that the Trump administration has done. I mean, it's just, she goes on to insult. He is a thin-skinned prick.
Yeah, he is.
He's-
I remember that post,
he's-
there's someone that died. What was it? Who died in the administration?
He is, since the very beginning, he's always been a thin-skinned prick, and he's very aggressive in his real estate deals.
It was who was prosecuting him that died a few months ago, and he was celebrating his death. He's like, "Oh, that's an evil man. I'm glad he died," or something like that. Or it's
Was that Robert? You mean Robert Mueller?
Mueller? There you go. Yeah. Remember that post about Mueller when he died?
Yeah. No, Donald Trump doesn't have an ounce of grace in his body.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
he just
But you asked
he
me about
just
why the nukes. Sorry.
he's a
Mueller rings bells in someone that's very deep state, and I don't think I'd shed tears for him.
despicable bully. So don't be surprised that a despicable bully threatens the use of nuclear weapons.
I just think it's a new level of insanity that, I've just been watching the movie The Apprentice, which goes through Trump's history. It's a level of insanity that it would be wild if Trump is at that level. It's just one of,
Well, Mario, right now, Trump is going to be at his most desperate. It's 6 months into the war. He has failed to get himself out. Iran is hardening its position. He's put hardliners in charge. Now it's clearly, negotiations are clearly dead. He's completely ran out of ammunition in terms of precision ammunitions and defensive interceptors to defend against Iran. Diesel prices are hitting all-time highs. Midterms are 3 months away, and he has no way to get himself out of this quagmire. It's probably going to bring down the Republicans in the midterms, and then he gets impeached. He could spend the rest of his life in jail if things go really, really wrong. He's desperate. When he's at his most desperate, it's surprising to you that he would talk about nukes?
one of those things you just don't. There's no existential threat to the US. Like, it's just you don't discuss that. Now, if he does discuss it, if he did lose it, he could remove the post. If he did discuss it, I would also expect people in his administration, even the hawks in his administration, to immediately oppose it, to immediately leak it, speak about it publicly, maybe do a press briefing about it, speak up, resign, whatever it is to stop him. I would hope
Why would
that's the case.
why would the Hawks oppose it?
Because there's a difference between warmongers like Lindsey Graham and these crazies, Hexeth, Rubio, etc., and using a nuke. Because
The Hawks were the ones who wanted to start this war, despite everyone knowing what a disaster it would be for the United States. Everyone knew Iran would close the Straits of Hormuz. Yet the neocons still wanted this war with Iran. So bad consequences didn't stop the neocons before. Why would it stop them now?
using a nuke would just they know the damage this will make. The US will become a pariah, and I think they know this. The cost benefit analysis is catastrophic.
Well, they knew Iran would close Strait of Hormuz, which is also catastrophic, and that didn't stop them from urging Trump to attack Iran. Your logic is flawed, Mario. you have to judge them on their past action. And they urged killing the Supreme Leader, even when they knew it would be an absolute disaster for the United States. So they're going to continue doing that, urging things that are a complete disaster for the United States.
There's barely anything the US would gain out of it, and it would lose so freaking much.
Yeah, some of them also thought they'd win. I think Netanyahu thought they'd win, but by that same logic, they'd think that you could use a nuke and win. If they could deceive themselves into believing you could bomb Iran's supreme leader and win, they can deceive themselves into believing we could use a nuke and win.
Empire would just collapse. That will be the day the nuke is used, the day the US is no longer an empire or even a unipolar country. That it just, the alliances, the world would change in ways no one would like to see.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with what you're saying. As far as, yeah, you're laying out rational arguments. Your problem is
No one wants to see. And I was just thinking, one country popped up in my mind that might like that. One country that has like 200 to 300 nukes, and would become much, much, much scarier in a world where nukes could be used. Israel, like, if the United States uses a nuke on Iran, Israel becomes terrifying to its neighbors, because now this is an Israel that's much more likely to use nukes.
you're assuming that Trump is rational.
Or people in his administration. Kane
When
and
you
others.
when you
Even
when you
Hegseth
surround,
oppose it, in my opinion. Even Hegseth will oppose it.
oh heavens no. No.
I don't know. I think
The-
Hegseth is even smart enough to know nuke is a stupid idea.
What evidence do you have to support that claim that he's that smart? We're right now.
Hegseth was the one who was most gun-ho about bombing Supreme Leader. Yeah, I don't expect that alcoholic to be the rational one.
Now we've got the actual evidence of the shortage of food across the Navy. It's not just on one ship; it's on all of them. And I wrote an article last night that you need to read because it lays out. I went and did the research. The United States used to have 4 ships that were fast carriers for resupply. And the reason you needed them, that if you got a carrier strike group out moving around, you have to have a fast enough ship that can get up alongside, offload the supplies, and then go. But they got rid of 2 of them over the last 10 years to save $30 million a year on the budget.
Did you hear that? They had 4 fast vessels to resupply aircraft carriers, and they got rid of 2 of them. And now they have huge supply issues for aircraft carriers. This is the state of the U.S. military. That's why they could have 5 aircraft carriers in the Gulf when we invaded Iraq, because we still had those ships. But, oh my God, every time I learn more about what's going on with the military, it's bleaker.
Per ship. Now they're screwed because they lost the resupply warehouses in Bahrain and Oman. So now they have to go to, I guess, Diego Garcia. And then they don't have the ships needed to be able to resupply everybody in a timely manner. And that is a structural thing. Trump didn't cause that. This has been, years in the making. This is a result of just stupid defense policies by Obama and Biden and Trump. So it's bipartisan stupidity.
Yep.
So, and yet, faced with that, what does Hegseth do? He calls it fake news, denies it.
It's another reason why I believe the dollar collapse is imminent in the next 5-10 years, is because all the signs like this. You look at U.S. military getting weaker. If you look at the U.S. financial system, I could bring you through that it's getting weaker, and it's weaker now than 2008, for example, and it's weaker than 20 years before that. It's been deteriorating in the same way. And other places like our manufacturing, outsourced, endless examples of everything heading the wrong direction. And you can't keep on heading that direction. Like our national debt, more and more unrealistic to ever pay that back.
Instead of admitting that there's a problem and they're going to fix it, he calls the parents who are raising these issues liars.
Yeah, it wasn't handled correctly at all.
That's
Well, inflation at this point, that's guaranteed. I mean, this is gas and diesel before the crisis. This is gas and diesel now. And this affects everything. So yeah, inflation Guaranteed.
Understatement, my friend.
That's not even going on with what's going to happen with food next year. You're going to have actual shortages. You're going to have a huge spike in food because of all the missing fertilizer from the Gulf.
Disrespectful for the servicemen and women, who are also very upset. By the way, you saw the messages they've been writing on the ship hulls.
But no, they're right. They were writing them on the wings of KC-135 refuelers.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could show those, you can see the image now. If you could show the image I just sent you, Stephanie. So they're calling, and this is important because it shows the morale among the American servicemen.
This is so important, and that's another reason why this war is a disaster. Righteous war. If the soldiers believe what they're fighting for, it makes such a difference. When you believe in what you're doing, you can work twice as hard because you know it's worth it. You feel your contributions will matter. If you are fighting a war that you think is just, we had nothing to do with Iran and we're fighting this on behalf of Israel, you're like, why the fight? Why are we suffering? Why are we eating this shitty food, risking our lives for this war that really doesn't matter to the United States?
Because Trita was saying in a post, is like the American military is able to deal with difficulties as they're dealing right now.
I hate to break this to you, Proton Snail, but satellites aren't detailed enough to pick up what's written on the wings of planes. If they were, all types of other surveillance wouldn't be needed. No, they wrote it on the wings of the plane, so when these bombers go back to the United States, servicemen maybe see it there, because these bombers they get deployed and they get sent back a lot sooner than the troops that are in the region.
They're good at dealing with war.
And of course, anytime you have graffiti, you always have someone who plays tic-tac-toe.
Oh, there it is, yeah, on the wing. But they can sustain, pretty high levels of suffering. They're very hardened military personnel. But when it comes to morale, that's one thing you cannot break. They need...
I love this one. I love Israel. I am a good goyim.
That level of morale to be able to go through what they're going through right now, 250 days at sea.
Peace deal number 64 incoming. All this for the Holy Land. Operation Epstein's Fury.
Well, look at the morale. BB's cucks, they're calling themselves. Yeah. Be a good...
They think of themselves as BB's cucks. Oh, God.
Do what Israel tells you to.
Was it be a good... Was it be a good boy or be a good goy, as in goyim?
Yeah, goyim. What does it stand for again? Goyim is like a just
goyim.
It's the semi-slur for non-Jewish. Yeah. Some people use it not a slur. Some people use it as a slur.
Goyim's a non-Jew. It's Yiddish.
This is a degrading way of saying.
So you're a goy. You Mario are a goy, as far as Ben Gavir is concerned.
And is that in a degrading way, a non-Jew in a degrading way?
It ain't a compliment for your haircut. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, man. Operation Epstein Fury, Peace Deal 64 incoming.
It's crazy how even though I haven't been affected by this war, I still have nightmares because of the trauma it's caused. Well, you've seen the fireworks in the sky, so that is worrying, and you hear discussions of nukes a nearby country, and also worrying. That's what your mind does. It imagines all types of scenarios. So sometimes those scenarios are good. You imagine what would happen if you get the great job, get the perfect lady and stuff. Other times your mind is imagining the worst case scenario, which when you have something like the Iran war next door is not that great.
Making fun of Trump. All this for the Holy Land. I love Israel. I am a good goyim. So the military personnel, the American military servicemen and women, they're not stupid.
Let's see.
And they listen to videos like this. They see the stories. They talk to one another. They see the MAGA voices they trusted and listened to for years, talking about how this is an unnecessary war started on the behest of Israel. When they see those things, what do you think it's going to do to their morale? We're seeing it right now. So not only are they struggling at sea, as you've just described, the shortages of food.
Yeah, I can't really read anything else interesting.
Record amount of days at sea. But they're doing it all at the behest of not even their own country in their mind. They're serving another country. Imagine how they feel.
What popped into my mind is the crunch in video game industry. If you're crunching, working on a game like Last of Us 2 that you hate, then crunch is terrible. But if you're crunching on a game like Elden Ring, then if you love what you're doing, the work that you're doing, and you believe it has a purpose, you can really go beyond your limits and keep on and endure. But when you feel that like your BB's cucks, you just have no motivation whatsoever.
Well, then they're told, oh, they're not sucking it up enough. They need to stay out longer. So it said Donald.
What I'm meaning, if U.S. servicemen actually believed in this war, you would be hearing far less complaints. They'd be willing to endure the bad conditions and everything. But the problem is you have these horrible conditions plus no motivation.
Donald Trump the other day. Now that the new aircraft carrier that's inbound, was it the Roosevelt?
Washington.
The Washington, George Washington. So it was in the Philippines. So it's 10 to 13 days away. So, where are we now? We're the 16th. So end of August, it'll show up.
And then the other one, the Lincoln, needs to sail back to port.
And that's from there back to port. That's another 4-week journey.
Really, a month back to port.
Yeah, they don't move fast, and they're here. Yeah, look at that. To get going around this way, it's a huge journey. It's more than half the world. If you go the other way now, because they don't want to go through the Suez Canal because of the Strait of Bab el Mandab, they have to go around Africa and all the way up to the United States. It's not a fun journey or a fast journey.
Roughly.
It's fucking brutal. That's really brutal. Yeah.
If the captain's smart, he'll stop and do Liberty on the way. To stop in the Med. Of course, that's assuming that they might want to try to go through Bab el Mandab, which the Houthis may have something to say about that. Well,
yeah, not now. They won't go through the Bab el Mandab now with the Houthis active.
Now,
there was a Truth Social by Trump with respect to Kim Jong-un of North Korea.
I was going to bring that up.
What now?
Suggests he's not thinking about using it. He's trying to de-escalate the threat of using nukes.
Based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I am not happy with the fact that the United States has, long ago, agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. These exercises are not only costly, with much of these costs paid by the US, as usual, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to a country that, as long as Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. Yep. He's got his priorities very, very, very well.
Well, usually if you have allies, you conduct military operations with them. So it'd be strange not to do military operations in a country a large number of U.S. troops are stationed.
Well, but he's so
But yes, it's provocative towards North Korea too. Yes.
full of crap. You cancel the exercise. You got to remember. Look, I worked in the military exercise program for the special operations.
You know what? What this makes me think of? The military budget is under strain. You know how they get 1.5 billion extra? It might not be enough considering everything that's going on, and he sees this as a waste. I could use this money to fight Iran.
Forces for almost a quarter of a century. And, the real world things came up or policy issues came up, you'd cancel it. Yeah, there's usually 18 months of prior planning that goes into these. I mean, this wasn't something that was just ginned up recently. They go through this. It's an entire kabuki dance of how these things are planned. They start with an initial planning conference, then they have a mid-planning conference, and then they have a final planning conference. And the initial planning conference usually starts about 18 months prior to the exercise. Mid-planning takes place maybe 12 to 10 months out. Final planning conference takes place about 3 months out, and then you run the exercise.
On the nuke side, I just want to ask you just another thought. Marjorie wasn't clear, see if she replied, but Marjorie wasn't clear what they were exactly discussing, who was discussing, etc. There's no details. So, is up for speculation there. Are they discussing attack nuke anything to do with the nuke is a horrible idea, just to be clear. But are they discussing a tactical nuke underground in Pickaxe Mountain? Try to install a tactical nuke there through a special operation and then blow up Pickaxe Mountain, which sounds like a dumb idea. But is that what they're considering? Are they considering what part of Iran are they considering nuking? Are they talking about Israel potentially using a nuke?
Thing is, one nuke ain't going to do shit against a country the size of Iran. I mean, just look at it. You have Europe over here, and you have Iran here. Iran's the size of like France, Germany, and UK put together in terms of landmass. Yeah, one nuke isn't going to be enough. So, how many nukes would they drop if they did start this?
Instead of the US doing so. So,
Well, like I said,
Unless they're just planning to nuke a Pickaxe Mountain and call it a day.
if remember, whatever they launch from a nuclear standpoint, it will not destroy Iran's ability to retaliate, and they will retaliate on a massive scale, and Israel will be the target.
they don't even need to retaliate, Larry. Like, they don't need to do anything, to be honest. Like,
Well, I don't care whether they.
itself.
I don't care whether they need to. They will.
Yeah, of course they will, yeah. But what I mean is that
If they get nuked, they're going to retaliate. Obviously, they're going to. Oh my God! It'll rain down fire over Israel.
when I say they don't need to, what I mean is that the damage done by the US just using the nuke is already more than anything Iran could dream of. The entire world would just turn on the US.
Yeah.
And it would strengthen the regime in Tehran. Yeah, you do not side with the enemy that dropped a nuke on you.
Except Israel. Except Israel. At least you'll have Israel, Larry. At least you'll have Israel.
Yeah, like Israel's going to be really happy if now they're allowed to use nukes because they have a lot of them. And they have a lot of neighbors they want to bully. And if they can actually threaten to use nukes now in a more realistic fashion and extort their neighbors using that threat, they'll love it.
Everybody else,
Well-
Israel will support your economy and your military.
Now this will
Mr. Goy, Larry.
Goyim.
Goyam
We-
Johnson.
We'll start teaching you Yiddish.
Yeah, that's it. So, any other comments on the nuke story?
Yeah, but no, it's alarming for sure. And again, I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene is now. What will probably happen is Trump will come out and deny it and make fun, insult Marjorie Taylor Greene some more, which is fine. Her mission will have been accomplished. She gets him back out on the record. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yes. The more Trump can be made to state on the record that he won't use nukes, the less likely he is to use them.
It's a step in the right direction.
Or they're trying to leak it intentionally to try, which I think is a horrible idea as well, just to try to put pressure on Iran, to try to scare Iran that they might be using a nuke, so they might be thinking to do that. But it's not only using a nuke that's a stupid, terrible idea that should never happen. Discussing a nuke is very irresponsible and very stupid. So, yeah. Hopefully they're not discussing it. Fingers crossed.
I'm sure now of all times, when you start running out of conventional ammunition, that's the exact time where you start talking about nukes.
Pleasure to see you,
Yep.
Larry.
All right, my friend.
Goyam, was it Goyam?
Yeah. Well, this was a good video and about a not fun topic, and that it's not good to be discussing nukes. Nuking Iran. Trump should not be doing that. Those around him should not be doing that. It should not happen. I honestly don't think it will, but at the same time, I'm positive that they're talking about it. I think it'll remain at that level. But yeah, when you start running out of conventional ammunitions, you will have Trump asking, I want a solution, take out Iran. And if they're out of conventional ammunition and you are forced by your duty to present the president with a plan to take out Iran, the only thing left is nukes. And you might be making that proposal while saying, I do not support this, I think it's a terrible idea, but if your commander-in-chief demands a plan, and that's the only plan you have, yeah, but the United States is not in a good position in the Persian Gulf. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch, and I'll see you next video. Bye.